Hello, I am Heather, the Pendleton Public Library, and I am going to show you how to do a book craft that is for books rather than made of books. I am going to show you how to make a cover for a book, like just a regular paperback sized book, although you could change it so that it could be any size of book that you cared to have. I first measure out a piece of paper to be a rough pattern. I like to do it with a pattern first rather than just cut a piece of fabric, because then I know exactly the size piece that I need. So if I have scraps, I can go look through my scraps and find one this size. First, I measure out that it will be a big enough piece that I can fold in hems, top and bottom, and that it will be big enough to wrap around the cover, go around the book, and wrap around the back cover as well. I'm not going to do any kind of I'm not going to fold in the rough edges, the raw edges, and I'm not going to put any stitch witch on them, but you could do that just because I want to keep bulk down. If you do hems, that's an added piece of bulk, and your book hinge does start to get a little bit too thick with all the hems going on. So, this is the size that I'm going to need. You can always get out a measure and measure your book exactly and figure out the sizes that you need for everything. There's nothing wrong with that. This is just an easy way to do it without getting out a lot of equipment. And I have already cut one that is the right size. That's a piece of fabric that looks like William Morris did it. It's covered with pheasants. I am going to fold it along the folds of my piece of paper. And pin it in place. This is just a rough project. You can always do more, like pressing and turning hems in is perfectly fine. Zigzagging edges is perfectly fine. We may zigzag this one just because it gives a little bit less fray. I don't think that this is a project that you need to worry about getting that kind of wear. You just put it on the book and you leave it. Doing it this way without measurements and making a pattern means you can make it for any size book. Alright, so that fits my book correctly. Everywhere my pattern turns out accidentally with a cute little pheasant right in the middle. And I can start to sew. I am going to take out the pattern. You could leave the piece of tissue paper in there and sew it, and it would give a little bit of body. I don't think that's anything that I'm going to need it to do. I'm going to pin it. stitch it. It looks nice. Good straight stitch. That'll be all right. I'm going to double check the fit on my book. Good. All right. I'm going to sew down the little flaps here. Pin them in place. I'm going to do a very scant seam allowance because it's going to fit very closely. I'm going to trim my excess thread because it's going to save me tears in the long run. I'm going to sew very, very closely. I just barely catch the two edges together so that I have room to put my book in. And just a little bit, I'll be done here. the end of every project there is a mess in the bobbin. And I just need to trim off extra. Of course, you can back stitch at the front and back of all of your seams, but I don't really think this needs too much finishing. And there we go. Nobody knows what you're reading. They think that you're just out with a cute little extra pocketbook.